topic at the dinner table, and even more so this year. So we're going to bring you highlights from our interview with Hollywood heavyweight Rob Reiner and ask him why Trump derangement syndrome is such a powerful force in Tinseltown. But first, we begin with a frightening realization that millions of families across the country face tonight. They talked politics over turkey. The total horror of that unfolded all across the land. And just last year, a poll from PBS NewsHour and Marist found that 58% of Americans dread talking politics, while 31% said they were eager to hash it out over the table. And even more alarming, an issue of Science magazine this past May revealed that Thanksgiving celebrations that year were about 30 to 50 minutes shorter for Americans who crossed partisan lines for the holiday than those who traveled to areas that voted as they did. Well, joining me now is our own little Thanksgiving gathering. So excited. Shannon Bream, chief legal correspondent and host of the show airing right after this one, Fox News at Night, one of my faves. And, of course, Scott Bolden, Democratic strategist, an attorney, of course, and Sarah Carter, investigative journalist and Fox News contributor, and Ed Henry, chief national correspondent, all the way up in New York. Guys, it's great to have you all on tonight. And, Shannon, I want to start with you. You heard those two studies. Are we really this far apart politically? And how do you control your interactions, especially with family members who can push your buttons like nobody else?
I think you get everyone into the turkey coma. What is it? The tryptophan is the thing that gets everybody happy. You've got football. I mean, you've got pumpkin pies. I mean, there are so many other things to focus on other than the sad, horrible jabbing at each other. I mean, if you show up, first of all, in your pajamas to the table, that's a conversation starter. You can stay in your adult onesie as long as you can. And then I would rather debate the stuffing. Like, is it filling? Is it wet filling? Is it stuffing? I'd rather debate that than politics.
Scott, but it is kind of crazy, though. I mean, I remember the old saying, never talk politics
or religion. I was about to say that.
At the table. My mother used to say that a lot. And I think that there's really something to that. And especially, like, you go to Europe, and people say, you go to Europe, and they do it better. But you go to Europe, and they're always kind of surprised. We say, well, what do you do? They don't even ask, what do you do? It's always about, oh, isn't this wine great? Or I have something else. Do you like this? But we do get all wound up.
We're wound way too tight. And by the way, I still don't talk to my clients about religion or politics, whether there's alcohol involved or not. Wow. But I think everyone ought to start the Thanksgiving dinner table, pre-table setting with alcohol. Whatever you do that day, you drink. Drink and keep drinking and stuff. Should I say that on national TV?
Yeah, that's fine.
but moderately drinking, but also maybe just a little buzz, because everybody will be happy at the table by then.
Except for those mean partisan
unless you have
drunk. You got to keep those out. They go eat on the porch.
All right. Sarah's for them. Sarah, but I think people feel, when they're with family especially, that they can kind of let their hair down and they can have these conversations at the table.
Right?
It's a safe space, but is it really?
Well, it's a safe space until everybody starts arguing, right? And that's when everything ends. So if you want the 30 to 50 minute short version of Thanksgiving, go ahead and bring up politics, right? And then you can scoot everyone out of the house. But if you don't, I think the important thing is, Laura, is like sitting down. What we try to do is talk about the things that we're grateful for, right? We try to just steer away, like what we're grateful for each other, the things we've done over the year, try to focus on those things that make us happy as a family. And especially when you have children, right? When you have kids sitting around the table and there's a lot of adults, you know, it's a time to just kind of behave yourself.
Right.
And when
they're listening.
They're listening. And when somebody starts to get out of line, that's when you bring in the pumpkin pie or the sweet potato pie.
Or the alcohol.
Or the alcohol.
More champagne for everyone.
Kind of, play a little joke about that and go on. I really think, though, you just brought up so many great points here. We're living in a time where people are so divisive, and we've seen what, is happening in California with the wildfires, the devastation, the loss of life. I think it's a time to sit back and be grateful for what we have and who we are, and just talk about those things. Those are the things that are going to make
And by the way, these dinners are going to continue because we're going to be going into the Hanukkah season. We're going to be going Advent starting, then it's Christmas, and it's New Year. So there's going to be a whole series of opportunities to offend each other. So that's why do have limited
it out.
Yeah, don't limit it to today. All right, Ed, everybody at this table and you. First of all, we wish you were here because we're all drinking. No, we're not. But Ed, we wish you were here because we love you. But we wish you were here. But Ed, Here's what I find is people come up to me or at the table from having like, well, I know you don't want to talk shop, but, and then they just go, I know you're sick of politics, but do you mind if I say this? And what are you going to say? No. But that happens to me all the time. And of course you say, God, no, I'm happy to talk GDP. I'm happy to talk. Yeah, that's just like just what I want to do on Thanksgiving. But do you ever get that?
I get it all the time. You're absolutely right. And you don't want to seem rude and say, you know, stop talking to me about it. But I talk politics all day. Let's talk about something else. And frankly, that's what I want to add to the conversation. Why are we even forcing it? If people are so divided, let's talk about things that unite us. And you heard it from Sarah, Shannon, and Scott as well. Talk about family. You know, oddly, religion is almost less divisive now. Talk about your faith. Talk about football. How about football? Nobody's mentioned football yet.
Yeah, well,
depending on what's your team.
Right.
Yeah.
But
all I
Laura,
can say is 2 words, roll tide. That's all.
TDS is real. Turkey
okay,
derangement syndrome is real.
Okay. All right. Here are 5 ways to keep family political arguments off the table. Okay. Number 1, reminisce about Thanksgiving dinners past. Number 2, accept that mundane conversational questions are fine. Number 3, skip the tradition of going around the table at all and saying what you're grateful for.
Come on.
This sounds counterintuitive, but expressing gratitude invites political statements like, I'm glad Democrats won the midterms, and I'm glad that California flipped 5 seats.
Yeah, that's right. That's always that ant, right?
I am, but I won't say that. I am, but I won't say that.
But Scott, this is for you. Number 5, limit alcohol before and during the meal, Scott. So
alcohol is a depressant.
Loose lips.
The mean drunks will go to sleep.
No, but Ed, isn't that right? Because some people, when they drink, they lose their inhibitions. So they might have been a little bit more
another
restrained.
thing about Donald Trump and another thing. And by the way, crooked Hillary.
Yeah,
Keep the alcohol away.
When you really think about it, like when we all take our last breaths, and we all hope that's not anytime soon, but when we do, we're not going to be remembering anything about any of the political stuff that has happened. Really, we're not. We're going to remember when we saw our child for the first time, you know, that hug from your mother when you were hurting, when you helped someone helped you, or mistakes that you learned from. That's the kind of stuff you remember, right? I mean,
you remember when you look in your child's face and you remember the first time they took their first walk, or the first time they came home and said, "Mommy, I love you," you know, for after school, or you know, the things that you did together as a family to get through the hard times, and you know, we've forgotten about service to others, right? Just taking a moment to do something for somebody else and not for ourselves, and maybe that's a good thing that'll get families together tonight. You know, do something for somebody else, for a stranger, and make yourselves feel good about it. You know, it's a good feeling to get away from yourself.
But you know, if it does delve into politics, I'd like to drive the conversation to really just how great this country is.
Right.
Whether we're Democrats or Republicans, we got a lot to be thankful for just being here in this country. And I'm going to challenge my family members. If we're being divisive, and both sides can take blame, what individually we're going to do to bring this country together in our own space and our own community. That's a great conversation.
This is why I love Scott. He's so great.
So
you all really need to work.
But
come on, are you guys auditioning for the Hallmark Channel?
Yes, which, by the way, also will shut down everything. You just watch the Hallmark Channel, and you can also work on your Black Friday list.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You sit down, you start mapping out these shopping strategy for the next morning or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm all over that.
People will want to know the deals and bargains, and they'll want to
know
the strategy.
Yeah, you are going to
online.
deal with family members, too. Like, if you don't start a fight tonight,
I'll get you that iPod.
You get this.
1995.
Ed, what would someone have to do to get you to miss part of Thanksgiving Day, to wait in line, to buy something at a store? This is the phenomenon that I can't believe happens.
No.
I would never wait for hours. It's insane.
It's dangerous.
And you see the video every year of people beating each other up just to be the first in line at Target or Walmart. What are you thinking, people?
They're getting their frustrations out.
No, but
That's what they're going to be doing.
They're there with their hibachi grills and they're grilling out. I'm like, wait, this is
Again-
Thanksgiving. He's like, well, this is my Thanksgiving dinner.
Right. Again, I do think you should wear pajamas if you're doing this in public. It's just kind of my rule for all things that are uncomfortable.
Okay,
Just
Shannon
wear
is going to
PJs.
host her, so that you're going to
I
host
am
your
in the
show
pajamas.
in the
I mean,
onesie.
but it's got to have the feety. The feety is different than the ones that just cut off at the ankles.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
feeties,
right?
feties. Are we getting? Are you going into?
I've got different.
I'm not going to do
One
that.
looks
will
like a
never,
turkey.
ever wear an adult one. That's like that. That's like that. What's that other hoodie thing that the I don't know. What
You
that's
should ask
called.
people to send you pictures
The
if they are
family.
wearing.
Yes,
The
tweet us your
family of
pictures.
onesies.
Tweet the pictures.
Tweet us your pictures of what you're wearing. Because
All
I
right, let's
guarantee you.
go around and let's start with worst but funny, not worst sad, but like worst or most uncomfortable Thanksgiving or holiday moment involving a table or being around the table.
Oh God.
All right, I'm going to start. I'll let you think.
Okay, yeah.
Start. I already know.
Okay, I was 12 years old, and or maybe 12, maybe 11 or 10. And my brother Jimmy came home from college. He went to WPI in Massachusetts, came home from college, and I idolized my brother Jimmy. Idolized. I was the littlest. I missed him. I cried when he went to college. He comes home and he had his hair a little long. This is the 70s. His hair is a little long. He came home with like a macrame belt, you know, those like belts they used to have with the long tassels. And my mother, God rest her soul, we lived in a tiny little rambler house. She looks at him and she says, "What? You're going to get your haircut?" I can still hear her voice. "You are going to get your haircut? What's happened?" And she the whole dinner picking up, like, but it was just the way she was. My brother got up from the table and walked from Glastonbury, Connecticut, all the way to the Hartford, Connecticut bus depot and took a bus back home, back
great.
to the college, sat there and ate like a hot dog out of a can for Thanksgiving. We laughed about it years later, my brother and I still laugh about it, but I was bereft
Devastated.
without my brother. I'm like, you ruined my, I wasn't crying.
Yeah,
I'm like, but it's just the
Thanksgiving's the
stupid
worst.
stuff that happens, like kids' parents, push
Yeah.
the buttons. And,
Well, and everybody fights, right? Families,
Everybody
we
fights.
try to act like, oh, and people think your family must be perfect. You never have an
No.
argument. No, we had great arguments. Now, my mom was from Cuba, and Thanksgiving was her favorite holiday. It was, she loved this country, always wanted to make it the most perfect dinner, invited everybody over, all the aunts, sisters, my godfather Emilio. I just remember one where they got into a big political argument. Yes, we are a divided family. There are conservatives
Good.
and
Mine
liberals.
too.
Big argument. The argument just kept escalating. The turkey was in the oven, and the turkey was burned.
It burned bad?
It burned completely. The fighting went on for so long. I mean, Cubans can really go at it, and it does.
I would have liked that. That's my kind of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Cubans
like
go.
that.
Yeah, it burned. There was
Yeah,
no.
all right.
But you know what? In the end, I thought it was going to end badly. In the end. Everybody was laughing. Everybody thought the turkey made them laugh. They cooked something else.
Do you
I think
remember
they
what
went
the
and got some
argument was
chicken.
about?
You know,
don't
I
remember. See,
yeah,
you don't even
I do
remember
know.
now.
I kind of remember. My uncle had come from Cuba. I don't want to get into, and there was a lot of arguments
All right.
back and forth about the political system.
All right, Scott, what
Turkey parts are really important in my family.
Yeah.
Me and my dad and brothers and cousins, we love the turkey necks and we like the turkey tails. Don't pass any judgment, right?
I like them too.
So we cook extra ones, right? But if you get to the dinner table late, they're all gone.
Oh.
And I got there late one day after college or when I was coming home, and they were all gone, and there was no peace at the table. My dad's a retired judge. I'm a lawyer. I got a couple cousins that are lawyers.
You argued that out.
And I was ready to write a legal brief to all of them about how offensive they were to not leave me a turkey tail or a turkey butt.
Shannon.
I'm going to take it to Christmas because we'll
Okay.
soon be there. But my family, I remember I had come home from college, and I remember we were invited to, my dad was really good friends with the man who was then Lieutenant Governor of Florida, and we invited to the special Christmas or Christmas Eve dinner over at their house. So they're giving me a tour of the house, and I'm at the top of their staircase, and I look down, and the party's down there and getting ready for the dinner, and I somehow missed a step, and I start sliding down the staircase, and I'm grabbing onto the banister, which is woven with live garland, and I'm jamming my hands with pine needles the whole way down. The whole party stops, and everybody watches this girl like fall down the stairs. Then I get up, and it's silent, and I'm sort of like, I'm fine. Like my hands are bleeding, and the needles are falling out, and I'm like, this is gonna. I'm not embarrassed at all. And I was like 19 or 20. It was.
I know when you're that age, anything's embarrassing. All right, Ed, give us some. I mean, horror story is not an
I hear all
exaggeration,
these
but
wonderful stories, and what comes to mind is my grandparents were always determined to have one table, even though their dining room table couldn't come close to fitting everybody. And so by the time you got down to me when I was a kid, you know, you were like 4 tables down. It was like a construction table that was missing a leg. You know, and hence the name Kitty Table. And I remember how hard I worked to want to get to the big table someday.
Any day now, Ed. You'll be there any day.
Someday. I'm still not there. You're right.
All right, guys. That was fantastic. And for more on why Trump won and how the GOP can do it again, you can get a copy of my paperback, Busting the Barricades, What I Saw at the Populist Revolt, in bookstores everywhere. And
liberals drawn to the arts because it's more of an open-minded kind of thing. And I'm open-minded. Look, I came on your show.
I love it. This is what it should be about. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, are you bothered looking back in the 70s? Obviously, I grew up watching, you as Michael Stivic, the liberal do-gooder on All in the Family.
Right.
Did it bug you that Archie Bunker was more beloved than your character? Because you are kind of your character. He was a liberal who ended up playing this kind of, this blue collar kind of irascible guy he had a lovable side to him.
He did, and we got a lot of criticism because people were saying
loved him. They
were saying, how dare you make a lovable bigot?
Right.
And we always said he's a human being.
But
he loves his wife, he loves his daughter, and that makes him human.
And you say Trump. You said he's a racist. You said
he is.
He absolutely is not. Do I look like a person who would hang around with someone who is racist? I don't hang around with him, but I've known him for 15 years. I will tell you this, and you have to believe me.
I'm going to listen.
You might think he's,
I just go by what he says.
You might disagree with his policies. That's fine. I have no problem with that. He's not a racist.
Then why did he spread this thing about Obama? Why did he spread this thing about Obama not being a citizen?
I disagree with that. There were a lot of people who did that.
That's a very racist thing.
He is not a racist. If you're a racist, I don't think Oprah Winfrey would have been friends with him for all those years. That's just ridiculous.
And why does he say that there's good on both sides when there's Nazis marching?
Sometimes he's not the most precise in his linguistics.
And why does he say S-hole countries?
Like Obama said, S-house or S-place, S-storm about Libya, or Lindsey Graham, is he a racist who talked about the hellhole of Mexico and Central America? I mean, again,
I'm just putting all of his things together. Central Park 5, not renting to black people. There's a thing there.
Anyway, so getting back to the character.
I think he's a racist.
Okay, but you don't know him. I don't say people are racist.
I don't know him that well. I've met him one time.
I know, and you thought he was a narcissist. Nobody in this town is narcissistic. When I read your comment about Trump. He's one of the biggest narcissists. I'm like, you hang out with the people who read other people's lines for a living.
You bet.
Okay,
and I can tell you.
And they look at themselves in the mirror all day. And look, I'm in television too, but come on. I mean, narcissism?
Okay, so let me tell you, I work with the biggest narcissists in the world.
Yeah.
Actors are the biggest narcissists in the world. They want attention. Yeah. They want to be loved.
Yeah.
They don't even come close to this guy in the one time I spend with him. I was with him with Billy Crystal, and it was his...
Another person I adore.
It was at his hotel for one of his fights.
Yeah.
They had a fight.
But narcissist.
And he basically only talked about himself the whole time.
Well, that's a shock. I mean, Bill Clinton was a smooth operator, but he might be better at hiding his narcissistic tendencies. Clinton, Obama, Reagan actually was not narcissistic at all, and I used to work for him. Not narcissistic, but most of JFK.
Well, usually you get to that position, you need that. You need to be loved.
But
you need that much of
attention.
Do you have
so Archie? You kind of people compare Trump to Archie Bunker. Okay, fine, whatever. But Archie was lovable.
Queens.
They're both lovable. But you don't see anything redeeming at all in Donald Trump. Not one thing.
I don't see him. I don't see him be lovable. I'm not judging, Donald Trump by his...
You just don't like his policies. You don't like his policies.
No, that's not true. I don't like his policies. That is true.
The booming economy.
But I don't like the way he conducts his life, the way he treats other people.
But you just did a movie about LBJ who had horrible personal flaws.
I don't like a man who goes like this with towels, with paper towels. I don't like that. I don't like the way he treats other people.
Okay, so the paper towel throw. He's not. Was he a big athlete?
No.
Was this in the Houston, the hurricane deal?
Wow, you're making some really bad arguments,
I
Laura.
don't think so.
You're smart as hell. You know better than to say when I make that comment. I'm talking about the way his behavior, the way in which he behaves towards other people. That's all. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything else.
Okay, just before we let you go, your dad is such an amazing man and talent.
Well, I'm going to say you're great because you try to find the differences and the tension even when there shouldn't be. I think that's pretty admirable.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, it's a conversation, and I'm just.
Yeah.
And again, Rob Reiner is someone who actually should be lauded because he's someone who doesn't agree with probably a lot of what I think. That's fine. But he actually comes in for a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill, Rob, a lot of them won't come on this show because I actually read legislation.
Who doesn't come on?
Lindsey Graham, Jeff Flake, John McCain. Well, he's not feeling well, but Cory Gardner, a lot of Republicans. They're afraid to answer questions about their job. And I find that to be disturbing. The fact that you're willing, and you've gone on with Tucker, I know, you went on with O'Reilly. And that is really admirable.
Have a conversation.
It's really good. And more people should do that. And we do have a lot in common, believe it or not, because I love your craft and what you've done in Hollywood. We don't get in politics. Politics is about that much of life. But your dad is someone I also really, really admire. He's 95 years old.
Yeah, he's going to be 96 in 2 months.
About as old as my mother would have been.
He gets up every morning and he says, if I'm not in the obits, I eat breakfast.
I know. I just read the obits to make sure I'm not in.